The Pittsburgh Steelers are legit Super Bowl contenders. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman Tyler Rowland, joined today, as I am every Monday, by Locked On NFL expert Gino Camilleri. On today's episode, the Detroit Lions might be the best team in the NFL after an amazing comeback on Sunday Night Football. The Kansas City Chiefs stay undefeated somehow, but we're going to start with the best game of the weekend. The Pittsburgh Steelers look like legit contenders as they take down the Washington Commanders. Before we dive in, thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use that code LOCKEDONNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. The Steelers let Russ cook, and the combination of Russell Wilson deep balls and Steelers defense makes them a legit Super Bowl contender in my eyes.
Russell Wilson in for Justin Fields. Mike Tomlin's best move of the year so far. He got a lot of pushback on that, and a lot of the talking heads over at some other networks were saying that this was a blasphemous move, and how could somebody with that record get benched? Well, Russell Wilson is why, and he clearly has shaken off the rust that he built up over in Denver. And talk about the best trade deadline acquisition already, and Mike Williams coming up and winning the game for the Steelers. He's got to be happy to be in Pittsburgh. Russ has got to be happy to have him. And the easiest hard count victory ever, getting Johnny Newton to jump off sides on 4th and short to win that game. Everybody in the stadium knew it was going to happen. But Russ finds a way to win, and got to be happy for him figuring it out there in Pittsburgh.
Well, like Mike Tomlin said about the decision, that's why I'm well compensated. But let's hear what my guy Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers had to say.
Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast, giving you your post-game reaction to the Steelers' 28-27 victory over the Washington Commanders to advance to 7-2. The Steelers found a way to gut this game out despite several up and down moments. They went for it on 4th down with a fake punt that was wide open, but it was dropped by James Pierre. They were at the goal line in the 4th quarter looking like everything was going their way, and Jaylen Warren fumbled at the 1-yard line and gave the ball back to the Commanders. But the Steelers stuck in there. Russell Wilson completely clutch in this game. 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. All 3 touchdowns had to be have, including the last touchdown pass, a beautiful throw to Mike Williams, the Steelers receiver that they traded for just before the trade deadline, and the Steelers defense doing just enough to keep the Commanders off the board late. It's a big, huge win for the Steelers, who now are in first place of the AFC North, playing the second place AFC North team, the Ravens, next week. But I'll have all your breakdowns of the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, check us out on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube.
That defense with Russell Wilson, see, I think that Russell Wilson is just a much better fit in this situation. What Sean Payton wants to do in Denver is that quick, short, timing, passing, precision. No, Russell Wilson has always been a deep ball thrower paired with a good run game, pair him with a great defense. I just think they have a mixture there along with Mike Tomlin as the leader that I think the Steelers could, before, I didn't think the Steelers would actually be a threat in the playoffs. I thought they would make the playoffs, but I'm not really worried. I think they could knock off a few people in the playoffs with the way that they're cooking right now.
They have a legitimately good football team, and I think it stems from that defense. It really does set the tone for them, man. It is a time and tested tradition that the Steelers are going to have a good defense, and they were just waiting to find the guy who could throw the football to put them in a position. It was Kenny Pickett over the last couple of years. He wasn't the guy, but that defense still kept him in the games. And they once again do it. I mean, TJ Watt, is he on pace to be better than his brother? Like, let's have a legitimate discussion about that.
That is a legitimate discussion. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the discussion that we're going to have time to have today,
right,
but that's definitely one to have. I do want to say, though, the Washington Commanders, like, I don't look at them any differently Now, that's still a very good football team, too. You know, that's a young football team that's getting better, but they played well in this game. They acquitted themselves well. I don't look at them like I don't see them as any worse of a team now for losing this game by 1 point to Pittsburgh.
It was the biggest test that they have had all year, but they went toe-to-toe with them, and maybe on a different given Sunday, they get that call to Zach Ertz with that spot.
It was
that
so
some people,
close.
It was, you'll get one ref crew that's going to call it one way, you get one ref crew that's going to call it the other way. That is a team that going into a game Thursday night against the Eagles, they could have got steamrolled by Pittsburgh in a look-ahead situation. They went toe-to-toe with them, and they had Pittsburgh on the ropes. The NFC East, the AFC North, the NFC North, 3 competitive divisions with some really good football teams. But I'll tell you what, Ty, I did not think Pittsburgh was going to be in first place after 10 weeks in this division. I quite frankly thought they had a chance to be worse in the division. I think a lot of people are being proved wrong with that team in Pittsburgh right now.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm shocked by it. I'm just shocked by it, but excited to see how it plays out. And, you know, they play Baltimore next. I cannot wait to see that. But the Kansas City Chiefs remain undefeated with an incredible field goal block at the end. All odds against them. They still find a way to win. And Chris Clark from Locked On Chiefs talked about that.
And your Kansas City Chiefs moved to 9-0 on the season with a huge last-second block field goal by Leo Chenal. This was a game that Kansas City was about to lose, and Leo Chenal made them pay by blocking a last-second field goal. Kansas City moves to 9-0 on the season. I'm Chris Clark from Locked On Chiefs. There's going to be much more to come on the show here in just a couple of minutes. But you look at this game, and you look at what happened. Patrick Mahomes didn't play his best game. He actually left several touchdowns that he should have thrown on the table. One to Xavier Worthy, at least one to Xavier Worthy. You could argue there was 2, and one to Travis Kelce late. But they find a way to win. They find a way to make it 9-0. They go up against the Buffalo Bills next week. This is a huge win for Kansas City. They remain unbeaten on the year, and they have a chance to go to Buffalo at 9-0.
This is what makes Kansas City so dangerous. Patrick Mahomes didn't even play well. They didn't really have a good rhythm on offense whatsoever, but the defense doesn't allow the Broncos to score in the second half. They come back from behind. Like, Kansas City is such a complete football team that even when Mahomes isn't playing well, they still win.
There was a time during the Patriots dynasty that you just watch them win games and you go, because it's the Patriots. I think we've hit that point that everybody can look back and say, because it's the Chiefs. That's why they win those games. They've won them year over year over year. And I think you could sit there and sit back for a second and say, I kind of figured that field goal was going to be blocked. And why? Because it's the Chiefs.
Yep, 100%. And hey, I dislike the Broncos, so I had a good cheer as it happened. No doubt about that.
Nick is on his way, though. That's a good thing for them there in Denver.
Well, the Broncos, like the Commanders, they acquitted themselves well in this game, and I think the Broncos are slowly starting to gain at least a speck of respect from me. No doubt about that. But some great performances in the NFC. We got to talk about the wild Cardinals, who continue to look like a team to be reckoned with. It's Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot. It's a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like you, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. You know what gave me a little bit of fan fuel this week? Watching the Kansas City Chiefs block that field goal and knock off the fraudulent Denver Broncos. Absolutely fantastic. Look, 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you're rooting for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for a big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel? whatever it is, do it with 5-Hour Energy, available on 5hourenergy.com. Ship nationwide. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made simple, made easy. That's why they have over 10 million members and have awarded billions of dollars in winnings. Look, it's so simple. All you do is pick more or less for at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. I love Prize Picks, again, because it's so simple. Think Jamar Chase, 79.5 receiving yards. Patrick Mahomes, 1.5 passing touchdowns. Travis Kelce, 59.5 receiving yards. Again, all you do is pick more or less, and you have a chance to win up to 100 times your money. So much fun on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Run your game with Prize Picks. All right, Gino, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Kansas City Chiefs staying undefeated, the Pittsburgh Steelers looking absolutely fantastic in their win over the Washington Commanders. But the other team out there that really impressed me was the Arizona Cardinals, who continue to be one of the most fun teams in the entire NFL. And my guy, Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals, broke down that win.
Well, that was about as close to perfect as the Arizona Cardinals could play for 60 minutes. Alex Clancy with Locked On Cardinals. The Cardinals get a convincing win, 31-6 over the New York Jets, to move to 6-4 ahead of their bye week in Week 11. Kyler Murray was sheer and utter perfection. 22 of 24, multiple touchdowns. The Cardinals are rolling. The defense is rolling. And the big takeaway from today for me, Monty Ossenfort hit on his first 2 drafts. Paris Johnson Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., Max Melton, Garrett Williams, Dadrian Taylor-Demerson was his first start today. The Arizona Cardinals are here. They're serious. And this is a turn for the better a lot sooner than many, like me, expected. But what we witnessed today was an Arizona Cardinals team absolutely dominating a star-studded offensive lineup to move to 6-4. That and more this week, Locked On Cardinals.
6-4 for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, San Francisco got a win. We'll talk about San Francisco in just a moment, but the Cardinals continue to lead the NFC West. And throughout most of this season, Gino, I was kind of like, yeah, the Cardinals are fun. I don't even know if they're a playoff team, like they probably won't make the playoffs, but they're building something. No, I have changed my mind. I think that the Arizona Cardinals will make the playoffs at this point. And I don't think I'm going out on some kind of crazy limb or anything like that by saying that. But again, that is not what I expected earlier this year. And I think the Wild Cardinals absolutely are a team that can knock off somebody in the first round of the playoffs.
You were nibbling at that cheese last week when we were talking about it in the postgame show.
I want it.
They're a good football team right now, man. And you talk about the West, you're probably going to have to win that division to get into the playoffs unless those teams just go on a run. You'll probably see San Francisco get hot, push towards the wild card. But if Arizona can host a playoff game, you talk about defense, that is winning them football games. And Kyler Murray is as efficient as ever. I think a lot of people wrote him off over the last couple years. Maybe it's just because he's playing out west in a division that isn't the best in football, but he is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in football and not getting talked about it right now.
Yeah, I love their trio of weapons on offense too, along with Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, one of the best tight ends. Marvin Harrison Jr. has really come on here recently after a lot of people were kind of trashing him early in the year, but now he's up to 445 yards, 5 touchdowns. And then, of course, James Conner at running back. And the way that they get it done with pass rush by committee, like, you look at their sack totals, the highest sack total on the team is 3.5 sacks from DT Dante Stills. I mean, other than that, it's a collection of people getting it done. They don't even have the talent on defense that would make you think they're as good as they are, but they're getting it done. Jonathan Gannon, a guy well who, had his bad moments in Philadelphia and people weren't certain about him, but he's got this relative cast of no names in the front seven for the Cardinals playing fantastic. I'm just so impressed by what the Cardinals have done so far through 10 games.
Him and Nick Rallis really deserve their flowers after the last couple weeks. And when you dominate a team, like Alex Clancy said, that does have that offensive firepower, that is a threat at any given moment in a way that embarrasses that team, shout out to the Cardinals, man. They're a team that's going to be gritty sticking around come playoff time.
100%. And a team that isn't gritty at all is the New York Jets. Get them the heck out of here.
Stink.
But staying in the NFC West, the San Francisco 49ers come off their bye. They get back in the saddle. They get a big-time win at the buzzer. Jake Moody misses 3 field goals on the day, but he made the 3 that mattered. But they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and my guy Eric Crocker from Locked On 49ers gave us the scoop on that.
San Francisco 49ers stay on the trail of a very hot Arizona Cardinals team by traveling to Tampa Bay and beating a Buccaneers team by the final score of 23-20, and the 49ers did it in dramatic fashion. There are several key takeaways from this game. Guys that stepped up, you look at Brock Purdy, he had a terrific game through the air. You look at Juwan Jennings, a very explosive game for him and some key catches down the stretch. You look at the return of Christian McCaffrey, who totaled for over 100 yards. But I think a lot of the talk of town will be surrounding Jake Moody. The 49ers drafted him a year ago in the 3rd round. And as of right now, a guy coming back from an injury, it did not look great. Can the 49ers continue to count on this guy to win games for them or kick well down the stretch? He missed several kicks in this game. The 49ers should be worried a little bit with Jake Moody. And we know when it comes to the postseason, games will get close. Can you count on Jake Moody? A lot of good things going on for the 49ers right now. Not sure Jake Moody is one of them.
Well, I got to tell you, they can blame it on Jake Moody. I get it. He missed field goals, but I don't trust this 49ers team. I simply don't. They came in out of the bye, barely won on the road against a Tampa Bay team that played in overtime on the road on a short week. It was not clean. It was, they're missing some people on offense. I don't trust the San Francisco team. And I don't think, a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you, yeah, they'll figure it out, blah, blah, blah. And they may make it into the playoffs, but I don't see them making any kind of run like they made last year.
I still need to continue to see more because, like you said, contextually, looking at Tampa Bay, this is a game with the weapons that San Francisco has that vibes are high with Christian McCaffrey coming back, and you have to squeak this thing out.
Right.
I am waiting to see what's going on in the NFC West. It is a toss-up right now, but good news for San Francisco, I will say this. Christian McCaffrey is so freaking good, man. And when he's in the lineup, he quite literally is an MVP caliber player. And I think he showed that today.
Yeah, he changes the calculus for them in a totally different way. So let's see if they get that back on track. But I don't know. The vibes are off to me in San Francisco. And I mean, when you got a team like the Detroit Lions in your conference, I don't know if I can count on any. I mean, what an incredible comeback from the Detroit Lions. We're going to talk about that right now. It's Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off when you use the promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code NFL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. Also want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, get ready to tackle the second half of the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers who bet $5 get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Gino, let's cap off today's Week 10 recap edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. The Steelers absolutely cook with Russell Wilson. The Chiefs stay undefeated. The Cardinals are wild. San Francisco cannot be trusted, in my opinion. But the best team in the NFC, hands down right now, and maybe the best team in the NFL, is the Detroit Lions. We're going to talk about that Sunday Night Football Classic. First, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen. Make sure that you check out the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL with Tony Wiggins in the barbershop, chopping up the best NFL topics. There's so much to talk about from this Week 10 excellent slate that we had, and Tony's going to be getting into it as well. But again, an incredible Sunday Night Football game where the Detroit Lions come back down big, 5 interceptions, so much craziness. My guy Matt Derry from Locked On Lions broke down the huge comeback.
Folks, the Detroit Lions do it again, an improbable comeback, and they win 26-23 in Houston to go to 8-1 on the year. Best record in the NFC, still atop the NFC North by themselves as Jake Bates, the rookie kicker, kicks a 58-yard field goal to tie it at 23, then a 52-yarder skims through the left upright as time expires to win the game. The Lions win despite Jared Goff throwing not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 interceptions. Yet this is what the Lions do. They find a way to win. And in the second half, they dominate the Texans, shut them out, and win 26-23 in come-from-behind fashion in Houston in what was a heavyweight fight tonight down in H-Town. Carlton Davis, a couple of interceptions. Lions defense coming up big. More coming up on Locked On Lions on a special Sunday night edition. Matt Derry with you. Lions win again to get to 8-1. They've won 7 in a row.
So this is absolutely crazy. But coming out of this game, the Lions are the first team since 1970 to throw 5 interceptions, trail by 15 or more, and still come back to win the game. This team is so resilient, so gritty. Even when they play their worst game of the season, they still find a way to win. I mean, I don't know how anybody could deny that the Lions are the best team in the NFC. And honestly, right now, I think they probably are the best team in the NFL.
When Jared Goff throws the same amount of interceptions that Nathan Peterman threw in a game that is memed into history, and they're still able to win that game,
crazy.
That just goes to show you that this sport is more than one guy. That is a legitimate football team with a legitimately good head football coach. And man, oh man, what a comeback against, talk about a fraudulent team, Ty.
Yeah.
Houston to
Let's go
lose
there
that
next.
game. How do you swallow that after this game?
I mean, I think it's absurd. Like, you know, we talk about the Lions coming back. The only way that they were able to come back is because the Texans could literally do nothing at all. And I mean, they're going to get Nico Collins back soon. He practiced. He was close to playing. He ended up being inactive. They'll get Nico Collins back, and they'll have more of a big play element in their offense. But is there anybody in the NFL who's been hurt more in terms of coaching than Bobby Slowick? Like, he got interviewed for head coaching opportunities last year, and I don't know if those things are coming this offseason. I don't know if that's going to happen for him. So good news for DeMeco Ryans. You'll probably keep your offensive coordinator around for a while, which is the hardest part about being a defensive head coach, is keeping your offensive coordinators around if they're any good. But, man, this Texans team has some serious issues. And I don't know if Nico Collins coming back is going to solve everything. It'll help, but this team is nowhere near as good as people thought they were going to be after all the offseason moves that they made.
And this is a game that Detroit, a gritty team, has earned the right to win, where DeMeco Ryans a tough decision to kick that field goal, a 58-yarder at the end of the game just to put your team in bad field position, a bad move overall. Dan Campbell has his team dialed in at the perfect moments. They are great at playing situational football. Even though Jared Goff played one of the worst games you'll ever see from the quarterback position, they did just enough to win games. And in the NFL, and especially in the NFC right now, that's just what they have to keep doing, because they're going to be the number 1 seed and end up earning a bye if they keep doing what they're doing. This is the formula. The Lions are a gritty team playing in a gritty city. They have it all together right now. Maybe the best team in the NFL, like you said, Ty. They're in discussion for it.
You know what's funny is I remember back, like, a lot of what Dan Campbell was preaching early on is like these situations, like the Lions would be in games and then just something would happen and they would lose them. Like they just couldn't close games. And now they have that experience. They built that callus, and it's like they know now exactly what it takes to win these games, and they don't lose their head and they don't make the big mistake. Like they're the team that prevails. And it's just crazy how the arc of that team, along with Dan Campbell as the coach, like has come to this place where I think they're finally in a spot where they're ready to take that next step. And if I picked the Packers to go to the Super Bowl, if I got to do a mid-season do-over, I would absolutely have the Lions in the Super Bowl right now against the Kansas City Chiefs. But another half of the NFL season lies ahead of us, Gino. It's going to be absolutely crazy, and we will get to it as the season unfolds. But that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL, a crazy Week 10, and there's still one game left on Monday Night Football. I'll be back to break that down with Lauren Cox, as I am every single Tuesday. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, make sure you check out the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL. For me, the madman Tyler Rowland, and my co-host Gino Camilleri, that's going to do it for us today. Get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as I tell you every episode, stay safe out there.